Welcome in, builders. Today we are going to take a look at early era Agartha, the Pale Ones. This is one of my absolute favorite units. I don't know, I have a soft spot for the Worm Boys. They are definitely a nation in decline. Things do not get better for Agartha as time goes on. In fact, it gets worse and worse. They are already hanging on by a thread in early era. Let's take a look and find out about them. In the dark caverns beneath the roots of the earth, a strange kind of one-eyed humanoids have evolved. Untouched by the sun, they have become known to humans as the Pale Ones. The Pale Ones are gifted with perfect dark vision and gills and inhabit underwater rivers and lakes, as well as the cavernous halls. The Pale Ones never stop growing, and Ancient Ones can grow to huge proportions. The wisest of the Ancient Ones are known as the Oracles, priest mages of great power. The Oracles are gathered in a great cavernous hall where they divine the fate of the Pale Ones. Agartha has the curse of essentially they can scry the future, or they try to scry the future, and they already know that they're going to fail, but they struggle on anyways. For national features, we are a race of Pale Ones and Troglodytes. We have dark vision, we are poor amphibians, and we get extra gold and resources in cave forts. Major bonus to us that Dominion 6 added the cave layer. Military, we have light infantry, medium infantry, we have wet ones, which are our amphibious troops, and we have huge and sacred ancient ones. One of our big benefits is we have some non-cap recruitable sacreds. For magic, we are very strong in earth, and we are decently strong in fire, water, and death. So pretty good here. Pretty good smattering. Our priests are powerful. Our cap-only mages are holy threes, and they are slow to recruit, but very strong units. Very strong units. For scales and blesses, we get a bonus 2 bless points. So that means that straight up, you can just afford 2 more points of blessings than you otherwise would be able to do. For buildings, we have the standard forts of the era. Overall, pretty decent here. Again, the cave layer really juiced Agartha up a lot. They made them so much better than in 5, where you'd have a couple of caves on the entire map, rather than having an entire layer as your backyard. Looking at sites, we actually have quite a few. We have the Hall of Oracles. Not only is this our cap-only mages, we have a special ability here where we can send an Earth Mage in, and within range 6 of our capital, we can scry on a province. A scry is an accurate scout report, so you'll know exactly what is there. Next up, we have the Roots of Earth. This is a gem site that gives us 3 earth and a fire. We have the Chamber of the Seal. This is what we are guarding. We are guarding some very nasty things that we sealed away in the ancient past. And it produces 1 death gem and gives us a cap-only sacred. Finally, we have the Womb of the Earth, which is a 1 water gem generator and allows us to get the Olm units in our capital. Pretty good gem income here. We can make use of all the gems that we have, and we have some decent national summons that will make use of a lot of that. Units and sacreds. As you can see here, we have a pretty good selection of troops, and for the most part, I would say they're pretty good. They're not just copy-pastes of the same unit exactly. First up, we have the Pale One Militia. Can be recruited in all forts and all caves. So if you're in the cave layer, you can get them out of any province. As a militia unit, they're not the best. They are size 4s. They have a bronze spear that they are very bad with. This is going to be a problem for this nation. We are not good with attack values. What we would like to do is fight people who don't have dark vision down here, or in some other way tip the scales that we will actually be able to hit them. We are going to struggle in straight up 1v1s, even against like another militia unit. We may have double their HP, but we are going to really struggle to hit them. Agarthans in general are amphibians. Pretty nice. It's not bad amphibian, do note. We don't need to eat. We are cold-blooded. We get a siege bonus. And we have 100% dark vision. The siege bonus here, so this 1 militia unit is equal to 3.4 siege strength. So that is That is really good. And even defense, 0.7 is not bad. I think 0.5 is usually the standard, so pretty darn good there. Otherwise, this is not a remarkable unit. Next up, we have the Pale One Warrior. This can be recruited in all forts and all caves. A big step up here. We have our basic chassis, cost of 9 gold, 17 resources, 18 recruitment. So we're pretty high on the requirements, but we have 18 HP. That's pretty good. You can usually take at least one hit. We have 12 strength. We have our bad 8 attack. We have 9 defense, 7 precision. That's not relevant on this guy, but it will be on others. This unit specifically has 13 protection. That includes his 2 natural, 12 magic resistance, and just 10 morale. This guy is much better equipped and a little better trained than the previous one with the same racial traits here. For equipment, we've moved up to a bronze scale hauberk. That's not terrible. We have a hat on. Yes, brain boy here. And we have a buckler. So this is actually not too bad. A little low on the morale, a little bit pricey, but combining 13 protection and 18 hit points, we can at least have 2 per square. Not terrible, not terrible. Next up, we have Pale One Warrior again. Can be recruited in all forts and all caves. This guy right here scales down. He takes off his hat, but notice how much that hat was costing us essentially. 9 gold, 10 resources, 18 versus the previous gentleman who was 17. So we are basically paying 7 resources for the hat. If you are underground and you don't see something down here that is going to be doing ranged, I would save on the hat down here. Ranged units are not overly common underground. The doggo boys might have bows or javelins, but barring them, maybe you'll have some cavemen with sticks and stones, but it's not as common as archers or slingers are up on the surface. So if you think you can get away with it, you could almost double the amount of troops you're getting if you are resource bound by moving over to this chassis. Next up, we have just the Pale One. This one's kind of interesting. So this is another dirt cheap option. 9 gold, 3 resources, 18 recruitment. He took off the armor, but he still at least has the buckler. What this guy's interesting for is that he has sticks and stones at range 12. So maybe you get some of the guys that have hats, and you make those kind of your front line, and then you have a second line of these guys behind to do sticks and stones. Sticks and stones is surprisingly good. And again, underground, most people aren't wearing hats, and a lot of them don't bother with shields either. So a 9 blunt damage at range 12 is actually not bad. Sticks and stones also throws 2 projectiles per attack, so your low precision doesn't matter as much. You're mainly looking at trying to get a critical mass of stones in the air and just rain of stones them, essentially. An interesting unit that does have a use. Next up, we have Wet One. Can be recruited in all forts and all caves. This guy right here is ready to go underwater. The same basic chassis. He's essentially a slightly better trained militia. He has the stone spear instead of a bronze spear. 8 attack for 14 damage compared to the 8 attack 15 of moving up to bronze. I'm not in love with this guy, but we do have the ability to have amphibious troops to go underwater, which in and of itself is already a bonus. Next up, we have the Cavern Guard. Can be recruited in all forts and all caves. I like these guys quite a bit. They are your standard chassis here. They additionally have castle defense bonus. So if we go back to our siege stuff, 3.7 on the siege strength and 1.3 on defense. So these guys are quite good at holding down a fort. They have a bronze glaive. Only 8 attack. It is range 3, but it's 25 piercing slashing damage. That is like giant killer. This is like harming a watcher or a monolith levels of damage. And we do have good earth access, so we could strength of giants this too. As a 2-handed weapon, you get, I believe it's 1.5 the strength bonus. So by upping this a few points, we can up this damage several points. They are still wearing the hauberk. They are still wearing a cap. If you're going up against things that you need to hit harder than 15-ish, this is the guy to go with. If you're going up against people that 15 is probably enough, The other guy with the buckler is probably the better choice. They're also slightly cheaper in both resources and recruitment. Also note, they've trained a little harder, so they have 21 HP. So just again, some nice bonuses there. Again, a useful troop. Definitely has a purpose. Next up, we have troglodytes. Troglodytes are tramplers. That is what they do. They are animals, and they have dark vision. Their biggest weakness is their magic resistance of 8. And I guess I would say their cost. For 50 gold, 1 resource, 50 recruitment, you get 37 HP. They are very strong. They actually have a pretty decent attack and damage profile. But if you get these guys, you're mostly looking at doing trampling. At size 6, they are pretty good tramplers. That is, most non-giant troops will be 5 or smaller. So you definitely can use these guys to help you expand. If you're going to do that, maybe use some of your bigger troops that can't be trampled by these guys, or send these guys off in their own squads. They also make pretty good shock troops. Like maybe you go into a throne battle and you set yourself up kind of on the sides and you just cram a pile of these guys down the middle, knowing that they will probably die, but hoping that they take a good chunk out with them. So again, a usable unit. Pretty decent. These guys are horrific to have to expand into. So know all the pain you've had before, but now you're the one driving the troglodytes. Next up, we go into some of our sacreds, and we have a good slew here. These first 3 are any fort recruitables, not cap only. So we have the ancient one, 40 gold, 19 resources, 32 recruitment points. What do you get? 40 HP, 18 strength. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. They are equipped relatively well for us with a bronze spear that is length 4, so you will be able to repel normal spears. They're wearing the bronze scale cuirass, they're wearing a bronze cap, and they do have a buckler. Now, these guys' biggest problem is their size. They are size 6, so you're only going to have one of them per square. And because we have a bad attack value and not good defense value, this is definitely a nation that needs to have smaller troops sharing their square. You do not want this guy to get singled out. He is not good enough at attacking to get lots of repels. He's going to struggle to do that. In addition, they are very good at sieging. 8.2 siege strength each, and they defend at 1.6. Where these guys are valuable is that they are sacred. And I think on Agartha, there's many ways you could go for your bless. And depending on what you've picked, will determine how useful you find these. But this is a acceptable recruit anywhere. Also of note, size 6 I would consider a giant troop, and they are not affected by needing 2 sacred recruitment points. They only cost a single each. So if you have 5 Dominion strength, you can get 5 of these per fort. So that is a pretty strong argument for them. Next up, we have Ancient Stone Hurler, both without armor and with armor. These guys are kind of memes. Their problem is they only have 5 ammunition, which admittedly is better than a lot of giants who only carry around 2. But range 6, I don't know. The meme here is like take a bunch of precision and maybe you could give them attack or throw range. I don't know. I'm not enamored with them. Where they are very good is 14 siege strength, but we already are pretty good at sieging down forts. I don't know if this is really needed, but I don't know. If you're in it for the memes, these guys are available. I mean, you could bump this up to 14 precision. That would be pretty hilarious. Next up, we have our cap-only sacred. Very similar to the ancient one. The Seal Guard is armored the same. However, he's wielding an obsidian glaive, a length 4, attack 11, 34 magic, piercing, slashing damage. Underground, there are decent odds that you will have to fight shade beasts or shades or dark fiends or other things that magic weapons would be very nice to have. We're already not good at attacking on most of our troops. Being not good at attacking and having to fight ethereal things is a recipe for disaster. These guys can help you solve that problem, and they're not that much of a premium over just the normal ancient ones at 45 gold, 37 resources, 39 recruitment points. But they're also not like, oh my gosh, this is the best sacred I've ever seen type units. I think what's nice is they want the exact same blessing as the ancient ones, so you don't have that situation like, say, with Micklin, where, oh, I have these one guys that want this type of bless, I have these other guys that want a completely different type of bless. We're pretty much in agreement, at least within the ancient ones. Pretty usable troop, interesting if nothing else. Next up, we have another sacred. This can be recruited in the capital and all drip caves. So that is pretty interesting. So again, this isn't a cap-only one. The Great Ohm, this is another super good unit. This, depending on how you're playing Agartha, might be key to your army comps. And the reason is they have a natural Mind Blast. It is range 100, it is 100% accurate, and it does psychic damage, which is magic damage that also can paralyze people. So, pretty good. It is an astral weapon here, so you do get magic penetration if you take that in your bless. Being able to hit people with paralyze means it's going to drop their defense score between like 0 and 3. So all of a sudden our attack 9 troops are very good at hitting those guys. In addition, as they are marching towards you, you're going to be getting some paralyzes off, which breaks up their line and like makes them trail in. So it gives us a chance to fight smaller numbers and hopefully overwhelm them, and then have the reinforcements trickle into us, rather than a nice solid line marching up and probably being higher quality than our troops. So very interesting there. Another one is, with the changes in Dominion 6, if you have a natural weapon, rather than ammunition, you have a fatigue cost. From the Agartha stream that I did previously, we found that they will use this weapon until they get to 50 fatigue, and then they will switch to a melee order, and they will stick on the melee order. One strategy might be to get a bunch of fatigue reduction, and make it so that you can do this forever. You only really probably need 4, so with the Earth 2 blessing, 4 times, you could essentially Mind Blast forever and never tire out. That is super, super powerful. And because these aren't cap only, if you get some drip caves, you can get a pretty steady number of these out. If you're choosing not to do a bless for your other sacreds, I would strongly think about these guys. We also, in our magic that we can do on other mages, would not mind having magic penetration. So that's another that would stack nicely for these guys. If something does get to them in melee, they are a tad squishy. They're only 5 protection. They have 8 defense, but for their melee attack, they have Life Drain, which is armor piercing 10 magic damage, and they can heal off of that. And as with all life drains, you also recuperate fatigue when you do it. The downside is, even if you were to fatigue down to 0, they don't seem to switch back to Mind Blasting. So once you're off of Mind Blast, you're done. So if you want to Mind Blast for a long period of time, you need to keep their fatigue down, not count on reducing it later and going back to Mind Blasting. Overall, a very powerful unit. Giving them a good protection buff would make them very solid. They would be very hard to take down with 28 HP and a life drain that they're not miserable at. A pretty good troop. Also of note here, they have Spirit Sight, which helps counter other things besides just being in the darkness. They also have cold resistance and poison resistance, and they are amphibians. So this is another unit that can really help you get underwater. Some chaff out front, a group of these guys blasting, especially things like sea trolls or other things you're going to really struggle with your really junky amphibious troops. These guys will help you make that break into underwater. And once you have broken underwater, you have access to your better Wet One troops. So this is, I believe, exactly 9-1-18. Yeah, this is just the water shape of this guy. It's the exact same troop, and he can be recruited in underwater forts. I don't even think the price changes. Yeah, I think they are literally exactly the same guy. If you're recruiting things from an underwater fort, however, I think you move up to these guys. So we have, again, just Wet One, can only be recruited in underwater forts. However, we're now wearing shark skin armor and a shark skin cap. For underwater nations, especially ones that are not particularly great metal crafters, this is pretty top tier armor, actually. Many things underwater are low to medium protection, or they just forego it in totality. So having somebody that has 10 protection is pretty good underwater. We also have a length 3 spear. There's a lot of underwater troops that have very short range, short length weapons. So we have a decent chance to repel. We're at least not completely terrible at 9 attack. And yeah, this is a pretty good troop. You could definitely conquer the ocean with these guys. But we also have this guy, the Ancient Wet one. So we also have an Amphibious Sacred that is Recruit Anywhere. Again, he's wearing the same gear as the previous guy, but because he is so big, his Stone Spear has gone up to length 4, and his attack has gone up to 10. 20 piercing damage will kill a lot of things underwater. That is really nice. Good HP numbers here. Mixing these guys in with some of the other ones, so you have one of these guys and one of the smaller ones in a square, is a good combination. And having that, whatever bless you've got to support these guys, I like to have regen a lot on this nation. So these guys regening in the front, and then as their little buddies get wiped out, new ones hopefully fill in the holes behind them. Makes them pretty good. It makes them pretty good. I quite like these guys if you get the opportunity. So in a lot of games, I don't think people realize how good Agartha can do underwater. We can also, obviously, since this requires an underwater fort, we have the technology to build underwater forts. That's actually really valuable. There's been multiple times on stream where I've gotten really excited because we're expanding underwater, and like I take a throne and I go to fort it and I realize, oh wait, we don't have the technology to do underwater forts. So that's actually a pretty big deal, especially if you're fighting like a close game and another usually player. The AI is probably not good enough to do it, but you've taken underwater thrones. Being able to fort them versus a nation that's like using Long Dead to go underwater or some trolls or something, that's going to be really difficult for them to deal with. Major props on having some good underwater units. Heroes, Commanders, and Prophet. For heroes, we actually have a pretty good smattering here. And while they're not like the best thing ever, they're very usable. So first up, we have Earth-Blooded. This guy here is 5 Earth, 2 Fire, and he's a Holy 3. He has Fortune Teller 20. He has Reinvigoration 4, just out of the box, and Affliction Resistance. I believe that's just because he has the high Earth magic. But a totally usable... This guy's fine. He's totally usable. Next up, we have an Ancient Olm. 3 Water, which is higher than we probably will get anywhere else. We have 3 Earth magic. We have Fortune Teller 15. We are Sacred, and we have the Cold and Poison Resist. In addition to the other basic Olm things, he's wielding a Magic Scepter, so yay. He can bonk people on the head, I suppose. I mean, that does give him 2 attacks in melee. That is a thing. Maybe you could give him a protection buff, Liquid Body, Quicken Self. I don't know, it's a thing. Having Life Drain's pretty darn good. That's pretty darn good. A usable unit is cool. Whatever. We have Olm Spawn. This is a multi-hero. You can get multiples of these in a single game. They are Water 1, Earth 1, Priest Level 2. Otherwise, they have the basic Olm traits. They're wielding a Bronze Glaive, and they have a Bronze Cap and a Buckler. In Middle Age, we have a similar type unit that is a Sacred that you can get. I believe they also have some armor on, which are pretty good units in that case. But for this guy, he's a pretty good leader at 150. He also has some magic leadership, which is useful for us. And he's only size 4, so he can share a square with one of the big boys. He's fine. I mean, he's a good leader. You can use him to lead troops around. So, pretty good. I like him. Next up, we have some members of the Closed Council. Water 1, Earth 4, Nature 2. This is the only nature I believe that we can get. We have a Water 2, Earth 4, Death 2. He is horror marked, unfortunately. Also has Fortune Teller. And we have a Earth 4, Death 3, Holy 3. Very similar. Overall, these are essentially just extra good mages that are cap-only mage, with the exception of this one, who has that Nature 2. if you get this guy, I would definitely consider keeping him safe. Maybe try to get forest trolls or somebody else, get some nature rolling. Even if you had just nature 1 indies from somewhere, this guy could make himself a thistle mace and get up to nature 3, and then he could strength of Gaia up to nature 4, and then you could do the big nature spells. So a very valuable unit here. For commanders, we have a pretty good smattering here. We have a Pale 1 Scout, can be recruited in all forts and all caves. So if you get a cave start, which you probably will, you can get scouts from every single province, which is a huge benefit. Huge benefit. He has the standard traits of an Agarthan unit, a Pale 1 unit. He is only 30 gold. He's not 35. He's 50 stealth, which is not terrible. Very, very usable, respectable scout. Happy to have him on board. Next up, we have a Pale 1 Commander. Can be recruited in all forts and all caves. This is like our armored Pale 1s. He is a 75 leader, so not very good, unfortunately. But he can at least haul troops around. Because we have so many recruit anywheres, it might be worth having a few of these guys who can collect and ferry troops around if you're at the point that you're doing non-fort recruitment. They'd also be your, I believe, probably your cheapest, best fort builders. And as a fort defender, 0.8 is not terrible either. So, a usable unit, unfortunately overshadowed by other options. Next up, we have the Troglodyte Lord. This one's actually a really interesting one. So, he has 90 gold, 1 resource, 1 recruitment point. Got 43 HP, a lot of strength. He does have the trample. His morale is 15, so pretty decent. He's not the best leader. So maybe you would have these guys lead troglodytes, but I think if you're going to do that, you probably want this guy for the extra leadership and inspirational, because troglodytes, while they're not super cowardly, you don't like tramplers running away. So that'd take them up to 16 rather than this guy who's only going to take them to 13 because he's going to have a penalty. Where these guys are interesting, in Dominions 5, I have not tested this in 6, you could build him a piece of body armor, and you could have 1 or 2 of these guys go out and expand for you. So what I mean by a piece of body armor, I mean the construction 1 junker, probably black steel plate, but you could do full plate. So that would give us 24 body protection. This one would only be 17. 2 encumbrance versus 4 encumbrance. So you have to kind of make a call on which one you prefer. But even with the 4, that only takes him up to 6. Now, trampling is very exhausting. However, he has 9 natural protection. Giving him a piece of armor is going to take him probably to, like, that 24 one's probably going to be like 25 or 26. That's really difficult to deal with. And we have Earth income right off the bat. So researching construction 1, and then you could pop 2 of these guys out every turn for, let's say, some of the smaller, like, indies that are down here. You could probably trample your way to victory for 180 gold. I'd probably send these guys out in pairs. I probably wouldn't give them troops, because as the troops die, it will break their morale. And I think you could do some work with this. Now, what are you not going to be good at? Well, you don't want things that can hit hard. You don't want things that you can't trample. You don't want magic. You don't want range. So you do have a target window that these guys are good at. But if it's in that window, that's a really cheap way to expand. That is really cheap. And later on, I don't hate the idea of using these guys as essentially trample thugs to raid enemy low defended areas. Like if they just have some PD, even like 11 PD, these guys will probably trounce it unless it's like heavy cav. So very interesting kind of niche use here. I would love to test that out on stream. We could probably get some pretty good giggles out of what the shenanigans would be doing that. Next up, we have the Ancient Lord. So he is very similar to our Recruit Anywhere Sacreds. He's wielding a bronze battle axe. So this is a guy who could chop through a monolith if you had to. He is sacred, he has 100 leadership, and that includes inspirational. So that is a very nice leader. Now, our basic Agarthans, or pale ones, 10 morale, 10 morale, 12 morale, 10. So we actually really appreciate getting a +2 10 is on the low end of usable. 12 is much more acceptable. So I like these guys quite a bit for that. They have good leadership for moving lots of guys around. They only require 1 recruitment point. They are not really going to break the bank. This is also a guy that you might consider making your prophet. He doesn't have anything else to do. He can lead troops around, which is handy. And he has okay HP. So those are all pretty good traits to have on a prophet. Next up, we have an engraver. Can be recruited in forts and all caves. Now, he does require you to have a fort and a temple. So it's not like you can just do them everywhere for free. These guys are pretty efficient researchers. They only cost 95 gold. They're not slow to recruit or anything. They only cost 38 upkeep for 90. That's pretty darn efficient. They also have adept researcher too, which is what makes that so good. But even if this was 7, that would still be well within efficiency numbers. I quite like these guys. We do have some pretty important research goals, and these guys can help you get there. Why would you not want this guy? Well, you might want the Earth Reader. 260 gold, not slow to recruit. 11 research for 104. So we're still within efficient, but our pathing is actually combat usable. We have Earth 2 and a random of fire, water, or death. So we can actually rumble it up in combat with summon Earth Power. We're in Earth 3. Earth 3 is kind of the breaking point for the really good Earth spells, both offensively and defensively. We are priests if we need that. We are sacred ourselves. And we are fortune teller 10s, where we are not fortune tellers on the engravers. In addition, these guys, depending on what path they roll here, might be able to do some of our national summons rather than our cap-only guys, who are, frankly, a little too pricey to be sitting around chain summoning units. So overall, pretty good. He's got a sweet cape on. You know, that's some major points there too. Next up, we have the Olm Sage. Can be recruited in Capital and all Drip Caves. This is Water 2. This is Earth 1. He is Sacred, not a priest. He has the standard Olm things and Fortune Teller 10. I usually like to get one of these guys to do my water searching because it's guaranteed Water 2 and it's cheaper than the cap-only mage who might be able to get that. Otherwise, I'm not in love with this. We are cold-blooded, so we tend to like to take heat scales. So water magic tends to be frost magic, so that's not particularly great. They can do quickness for people. They could do like liquid body for people. They have some stuff that they could do. They're okay. They're okay. They're nothing to write home about. Next up, we have our cap-only mages, and these guys are really good, but they are slow to recruit and expensive. So first up, we have the Oracle of Subterranean Waters. This is a Water 1, Earth 3, Priest 3, with a random of Water or Earth. So you could get Water 2, hence why the Great Olm might be your better choice for that. Or you could get Earth 4, with 10%ers on that too. Beyond that, they are not very good for research at 206 upkeep and 15. You're going to want to get these guys and get them out fighting. Priest level 3s means it's very easy to bless our large hordes of large sacreds. In addition, we have really good buffs, and depending on the cross path, this guy maybe not so much, but the other ones have lots of good cross pathings. One thing that of note that this guy can do, we do not use any iron weapons. So if you want to use rust spells like Rust Mist against people who are using iron, we are totally immune to that. And once you've broken their weapon, their shield, and their armor, that nerfs their stats significantly. And for almost no cost to ourselves, that can be a pretty powerful thing that many nations don't want to do because they are using iron weapons themselves. Next up, we have the Oracle of Subterranean Fires. The same exact guy, except for instead of water, he has fire. He can random a fire or an earth. You're looking at magma spells, and we have a unique fire earth spell that we'll look at. He can be the guy that casts that. Otherwise, exactly the same. It should be noted, I guess, on these chassis, while they're not good at it, they do have a lane 3 Great Club that hits for 29 damage. So it's not uncommon that things run up to these guys thinking they're going to be real cute. And these guys have iron skin themselves, and then they bonk you on the head for 29 damage. So they're not as helpless as some mages are, but They are so expensive, cap only soldier recruits, that you definitely do not want to lose them. So treat them gently. Finally, we have the same guy again, but now he has death, and he has a earth death for his randoms. So you could get a death 2 guy, which means you could make skull staves natively. Pretty good. You could say Skelly spam possibly. He could summon earth power, and then with a skull staff, I would say he'd be pretty effective at hordes of skeletons. But how many of these guys are you going to get at slow to recruit, cap only 515 gold? That being said, you know, a couple thrown in there would be some nice chaff to mix in with your bigger sacred units. So overall, very, very good. We have very strong earth, and our magic choices are going to reflect that. But these are precious, precious lives. They are, I mean, how many turns does your game go? In 50 turns, if you never missed recruiting one of these, you would have 25. You're not going to have 25 of these guys, I'm going to tell you. So treat these carefully. Pick which ones you're getting carefully. Maybe getting a death 2 guy so you could do skull staves to boost these guys would make it more viable. I don't know. Finally, we have the Wet One Captain. This is just the underwater recruit guy. He is the leader version. He moved up to a bone trident, which is kind of cool. That's a very good weapon, ironically. Not the best leadership, though, and you could just lead with Ancient Lords. I suppose... No, even the Ancient Lord has better map movement. I would probably try to get this guy as my leader just because, again, our morale here isn't the best. But this guy can do it too. He could also build your forts or something. So he has uses. He's not a total waste or anything. As for profit, I really think it comes down to either an Ancient Lord for just a good solid chassis that's useful, that isn't going to like keel over and die to the first arrow that gets to him. Or you might consider one of your cap-only mages, both to wipe up their upkeep cost and to go up to a Holy 4, which will allow you to do Fanaticism, which is a map-wide Sermon of Courage. With our cowardly troops, that would not be the worst thing ever. National items and spells. For national items, we have no national items. For national spells, we have quite a few national spells. Let's start in at Thaumaturgy. At Thaumaturgy 4, we have Mirror of Earth's Memories. It is 2 water and 2 earth, so we can do this with a little bit of random luck. Costs us 5 water gems. What does this do? This, also of note, it can only be cast at the womb of the earth, so you have to do this in your capital. It's a range 10. It will reveal all magic sites of earth, fire, water, and death in a cave province. So getting a water 2, earth 2 guy, whether that's empowering an Olm, because he can't wear boots, or it's randoming into that water 2 guy. And I think this is a strong argument to try to do cap-only oracles of water first until you get a water 2 guy. Because this basically means you don't have to manually site search for, I think, anything we care about. Yeah, those are literally all we care about. The only thing here that we might want is nature, but that's on a random hero. So this would really, really juice up our ability to site search. And when we look at some of these other spells, you'll see that you really want gems. Next up in enchantment, we have Living Mercury. A water and an earth, so our smaller guys can actually cast this. It doesn't have to be a cap only, or an Olm could do it. For 6 water gems, you get a Living Mercury. Living Mercury is this guy right here. It's essentially a mercury poison elemental for all intents and purposes. It has 140 HP. That's pretty good. He's amphibious. He's resistant to slashing and blunt and pierce. He's basically poison immune. He is a magic being that is inanimate, and he is mindless, so he's immune to a lot of shenanigans. He does have spirit form, though. Yeah, I guess I don't think with spirit form, yeah, we couldn't buff his protection. That is unfortunate. You might be able to give him invulnerability. Maybe. I'd have to test that. But still, 140 HP is fine. He's blind, but he has spirit sight, and he has a poison cloud. And it's poison cloud 5, which is pretty good. You could maybe use a few of these as like shock troops. They have that perfect 50 morale. So let's say maybe 5 of these front and center in your formation on just attack. Get them in there while the rest of your troops are put way, way in the back and on like hold. We'll take some time and get them buffed up. And by the time they arrive, hopefully these have died and we don't poison ourselves. Attack-wise, they're actually pretty good too. So these guys are quite menacing. They're like a water elemental that has a poison cloud, essentially. Do mind that we are not generally immune to poison, though. So watch out for the friendly fire on those guys. In Evocation, at Evocation 5, we have the Liquid Flames of, I believe this is pronounced Ro. Essentially, it's kind of like a magma spell. So Fire 3, Earth 1. Now, this is a little hard for us to do. We can we have like a 50-50 on a Fire Oracle to get to Fire 2, and then you could Phoenix Power up to Fire 3 and cast this. This is a pretty good combat spell, though. Range 30 plus, area of effect 1, does 24 plus fire magic damage, and we splash Molten Metal for area of effect 6 for an armor-piercing 10 magic fire. So that is super good damage, and it's not even a fatiguing spell. At 20, now note, anyone who can cast this is also going to be able to summon Earth Power, and we may have taken a Reinvigoration Bless. So if you had a Reinvigoration Bless and you're running Earth Power, you could spam quite a few of these out. A very good spell, and that area of effect is really nice. We are good at holding things in place with our big chunky sacreds, but we're not good at killing anything. And this is a very killy spell for us. While we're in Evocation, I will call out, that is also the same level that we would get Earthquake. At 4 Earth, even our Earth 3 guys could summon Earth Power to 4. They could easily cast this spell. So, pretty darn good there. Earthquake, if you don't know, it's a battlefield-wide effect. It does armor piercing, and it goes against defense. So be careful. This can wipe us out. We are not very defensive either. But our big guys just have enough HP. Or when we talk about the blessing I'm going to suggest, you might be immune to that. If you get knocked down, you also get stunned. Over in Conjuration, we have several different spells. Let's just look at them here first, and then we'll go look at the actual units. So at 3 is our really big one. We have Ro Pact, which is fire and earth. So our medium mages can cast this, and this is a pretty efficient spell. For 2 fire gems, we're going to get 3 of these guys, and you'll see these are pretty darn good. Also of note, we have to do it at Roots of Earth, so you have to do it in your capital. At Conjuration 3, we also have the Barathas Pact. This is the same, essentially, but it's 3 Earth Gems, and we get a 2, and again, has to be done in the capital. This summons essentially Earth Elementals. We have the Bind Penumbal. This is a pretty good undead troop, although you only get 1 for 1 gem. Yeah, that's a little rough. We also could revive Cave Whites. This is pretty efficient. For 8 gems, you get 5 of them. I'm not as in love with these guys, but again, we'll look at them here in a sec. And finally, at Conjuration 5, which would also give you your elementals, like Earth Elementals, which we would be really good at casting in combat if we needed them, or Fall Bears, or Trolls. So lots of good things at 5. We could bind Umbral. This does require a Death 2, so either Skull Stabs on the medium mages or lucked into a Death 2 guy. For 2 gems, you get 1 Umbral. Let's take a look at these. Magma Child is from the Pact of Ro. This is a really good guy. It is a 17 HP fire elemental, essentially. So, and it's a fire elemental that you summon ahead of time. You're not doing it in combat and tiring out all of your mages. They are a little on the squishier side. They've only got 8 protection, but these ones actually can be buffed because they don't have a spirit form. They have fire resistance 25, 15 poison resistance. They're magic beings. They don't eat. They have heat 3. Note, we like heat, but we don't have heat immunity. They have a 10 AP fire shield, which is pretty beefy. They have spirit sight, and they have firepower. That's pretty significant. We're cold-blooded, and we're underground, so we don't have to worry about seasonal temperature shifts. I think Heat 2 is probably the play for an early era Agartha. So you're going to be looking at adding 2 extra strength, 2 extra attack, 2 extra defense, 2 extra combat speed. That's much better stat line. And we really don't care about our attack or anything. We just need to live to either kill things with Fire Shield. Remember, Fire Shield has been buffed semi-recently that it's when you are attacked, not when you are hit. So that is pretty handy. And we have Flame Strike, which is an armor-piercing area of effect 1. Cannot be used for repelling, just of note. And it is a 12 fire magic damage area of effect attack. So it doesn't really matter that it's attack 10 because it's area of effect. But pretty nice, pretty nice. I like these guys a lot. And like I said, they're not breaking the bank to get them. So getting several mages on recruit or on summon on repeat, you can get a pretty hefty number of these guys. They're also interesting in that they are enough poison resistant that you could mix in some of those Quicksilver elementals with these guys. Next up, we have that Earth Elemental from the Earth Pact. He has Reconstruction, which is regeneration for inanimate beings. So his 70 HP is going to regen a decent amount. He is also a Trampler that is size 6. Otherwise, he's very similar to the other guy. He is actually amphibious. A few of these guys helping your water dreams could definitely help out. He has that 50 morale because he is mindless. Usable. Very usable. I think that I'm less interested in this guy because we are quite good at summoning earth elementals compared to fire elementals. But still, he's fine. He's totally usable. We already looked at the living mercury. Let's look at the cave white. Interesting, but I don't know. I'm not in love with them. They're essentially cold undead. So these are some of the people who guard that seal, and then they died, and then we bring them back. They have a bronze glaive, and he has 30 damage. Is just so good on that. He has cold resistance. He has poison resistance. He is undead, so can be banished. And they have a chill aura. Remember, we have cold-blooded troops, so we don't like to be around that. But it does give you another vector of attack. Next, we have the Penumbral. These guys are pretty decent. They're 30 HP with Ethereal. They're not able to be buffed because they have Spirit Form. They have cold resistance, and they are amphibian. So this is one that, again, that would help you get underwater if you're struggling a little bit. You don't get a lot of these. I believe it's a one-to-one cast. But having a life drain with 10 attack, 15 damage, these are okay. I much prefer the Umbral at Conjuration 5. Again, 1 mage, 1 cast, but 68 HP on an ethereal unit that has life drain. These are really hard to deal with if your enemy's not expecting them. I've had games where I had, let's say, 5 to 10 of these guys, and I just put them on a flank and just had them like attack closest, just to help my line, because these guys are actually good at killing things where most of our troops are not. So, pretty decent here. I wish they were buffable. If we could give them some protection, they would be way, way better, but it is what it is there. Finally, in Alteration, we have our last spell, all the way at Alteration 8, so you already know this is going to be a good one. This is one you probably have to make a pretender to do if you want to do it. It requires 6 earth and 4 death, and you can unleash the imprisoned ones for 100 earth gems. What are the imprisoned ones? Essentially, I don't know if we were in charge of this seal or we did it, but these are like the previous ages Pentacrocators. So it's like this big blob of like evil Titan ghosts. They are quite deadly. Yeah, they are not good. They are definitely not good. Unfortunately, I don't even think that the website has these guys. Let me just double check. No, I don't believe that the Dom 6 Inspector is showing this, but it is basically a super combatant unit, but it blows up the site that we're guarding in our capital, and it's kind of like a doomsday spell. It's not even really a you're gonna win because you cast it spell. It's just like everybody's screwed because you did this spell. So cool, very, very flavorful, but in actual use, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen. Okay, so let's bring all of this together. So Agartha is an underground nation that very strongly benefited from the changes into DOM 6. We have not the worst troops, but not the best troops. We are very hungry to fight in the darkness. We quite would like to do that, especially against people who can't see in the dark. Or use things like Earth Meld or other things that lower enemy defense or bind them or paralyze them, like Mind Blasting guys, so that we can actually hit things. We are not good at hitting, but we have good damage. We have a very interesting Great Olm Sacred that's not entirely cap only, although it is kind of rare that you're going to get drip caves. That is very nice. It's there are plenty of nations who really, really suffer against magic resist saves, and you could just spam these guys out. We also have usable Recruit Anywheres that are pretty decent. We have a pretty good mage lineup with some very good cap-only mages and a couple usable non-cap-only mages. We have a special site-searching spell that can really help us find all of the gems, and we have different conjurations that can use the gems to transfer that directly into power. We also have the availability to go underwater and build underwater forts. So a pretty versatile nation here. Where they struggle a lot is fighting high defense troops, fighting hard to hit medium or high protection troops, fighting on the surface where most people up there have 11 or 12 attack and like 11 to 14 defense. This guy right here hitting a 12 defense guy, it's not going to happen very often. You're only going to have 2 of them in a square, and they only have 8 attack. Our troops are mostly to block for magic that's going to happen. I think that's the way that they play. And we do have some nice shenanigans. Like I said, we have the Mind Blasting, we have some Tramplers, we have maybe like some Thug ability up here. I mean, this guy might be able to Thug, especially if you give him like an area of effect weapon. Or fear would help him out. Maybe he could do it. Quite versatile, actually, and we're decently good at what we do, and we're pretty bad at what we don't. So that is something to keep in mind for a nation like that. I do want to show it. It's just kind of a funny little thing here. This battle that I had this turn. This is a throne battle that I was doing. It is a tier 3 throne. It's one of those fire serpent ones. We've got this guy here, a solar serpent, guarding it. This is not super late in the game, but I have the big earth meld that requires a gem to cast. I have summon, and I have earthquake. Those are the 2 things that are going to go off here. So let's just watch what happens. We'll just do this super, super quick. So a bunch of earth power goes off. We do a bunch of iron skins. And now we're going to earthquake the crap out of this battlefield. Now, watch what's going to happen right in this middle part of the screen here when these earthquakes go off. So all the little cavemen that I had brought with us are just deleted, basically. And a good chunk of the non-tough units of his were just deleted. And even like these snakes, they're down to half HP just from those earthquakes. Now, our big boys here did not suffer, and it's because of this. We'll talk about this when we do blessings, but I think Sacred Spam plus Earthquake is maybe the secret sauce for these guys. Do note, like, I almost killed off all my Magma Children from the Earthquakes. We wiped out most of the cavemen that we had brought. You can see a couple of these guys got stunned because they fell over in the Earthquake. If you're going to do the Earthquake, make sure you know who you're bringing. And that they can take earthquakes. But, I mean, even here, we didn't hurt their god at all, but we did wipe out a lot of the things that that were guarding him. So that was quite funny, I thought. Yeah, I think Earthquake is definitely a big one. Another one is the big Earth Meld type spells, especially the one that requires a gem and has size 20. Size 20 is pretty significant. We could be we could be trapping these guys and chopping them up with our big boy sacreds pretty easily. So I just thought that was an interesting little bit here. And I do go on to quite handily win this tier 3 throne. And we're not even that far in. This is late spring of year 3 of not the best expansion game I've ever had, in all honesty. But we took the Throne of Splendor, which would give us awe. And our troops would love awe because we're not very good at the defense. So that would be super duper helpful. Okay, let's take a look at Pretender design. The first thing I want to say about Pretender design, when I was first doing Dominions content, I was only doing some streams because I couldn't figure out how I wanted to make content that people would actually watch in long form. And I got a comment on that video from Kevin Thomas, and he was talking about the Weightless Bless. And it so blew my mind that comment spawned the pregame series, which people seem to really enjoy, and I think gives me a lot of value because it lets me put some thoughts out and then get feedback from the community before we do the stream together. So major shout out to Kevin Thomas. What an absolute champion. Thank you for the wonderful idea. This could probably be done more effectively. I kind of was doing this for the memes. However, Weightless Bless plus Regeneration. Why is this a good combination for this nation? We have Recruit Anywhere giant sacks of HP, and we have very strong Earth Mages that quite would like to Maws of the Earth or Earthquake. Well, all of our casters that are going to see combat are sacred. All of our big HP sponges are sacred. Weightless Bless. Blessed units and their equipment becomes almost weightless. They ignore the weight of heavy armors, as well as gain the floating trait. Encumbrance from armor is halved, and spellcasting is still difficult. So it not only lowers their encumbrance, which it's good, it's not horrible, but it gives them the floating trait. And the floating trait makes you immune to certain ground contact spells, like Earthquake and Maws of the Earth. So now our entire army can be floating, and it completely immune to both of those spells, which are kind of, I feel, the bread and butter of the Agarthan strategy in early age. In addition, we have lots of Recruit Anywhere big HP sacks that actually have pretty good protection. So now, not only are we not fatiguing out as bad, we also are regenning. I believe they get 4 or 5 HP per turn. It's pretty significant. So this is a very fun bless. I don't think Agartha is super meta or anything, but I find them very fun to play, and I enjoyed this a lot. You get that critical mass of sacreds to block for you, and then you just earthquake the crap out of the entire battlefield. And any of our cap-only sacreds, even if they don't roll an earth, so they're only earth 3, can earthquake. And we can easily craft them a pair of boots. And with boots, or if you rolled into a 4 naturally, you can earthquake spam pretty effectively. So you can wipe out especially human-sized troops or animals or anything that's not super defensive or has a ton of HP themselves. You can just battlefield wipe with a few earthquakes. Very, very fun. And remember, if you do Maws of the Earth first, it gets rid of their defense, and then you earthquake, all those like high stealth, high glamour, veneer troops, etc., they'll just get hit by the earthquake too. So they're not as immune as they think they are. For other pretenders that Agartha might want to look at, we have a small-ish collection here. We do have the Leader of the Closed Council. I don't love this one. For 130 points for an Earth 1. Yeah, Earth 1, and I guess you have Fortune Teller 20. Way too overpriced. Make this 100, and then maybe I'll think about it. I mean, yeah, I'd prefer him being 90 even, frankly. So I'm not entranced with that. If we move up, we have a Risen Oracle. Again, for 240 points, a non-combat Titan. I'm just not seeing it. I guess he has fear, but I mean, you'd have to give him a bunch of armor. You'd probably have to... I don't even know what you'd do with this guy. It's not happening. That's what you're going to do. It's not happening. As cool as he is, we have an Ageless Olm. Now, this one at least is within the price realm. For 120 points, I consider it. Water 1, Earth 1. That is a path combination that we wouldn't have on any other chassis, and he is within the affordable realm. However, what are you going to do with that water? I don't know. I'm not certain what bless you'd want with that. If we move up to Dominion 3, we have another unique one. We have the Earth-Made Flesh, Long May His Meme Reign. But he's 250 points. Let's be honest, you're not going to buy this guy for 250. He literally has the pathing of one of our cap mages. Like, that's not impressive in the slightest. Now, where he could be good, he does have 220 HP. That is a lot of HP. And he is size 10. So if you got this guy some armor, he has 8 natural protection. So give him a nice full plate and some trampler boots. He does come with reinvigoration 4. So that'll help him not fatigue out. And I think you could make a trampler god out of him. He could give himself summon earth power. He could temper his own flesh. He could drop a protection buff on himself. Maybe with a little bit more water, you could quicken self and liquefy or liquid body. He could do some work as a trampler, but that's a whole lot of work I just described for a trampler. And we can recruit troglodytes. So yeah. I'm sorry, Baldy. It's not happening. It's just not happening. We also have Crystal Soul, an interesting chassis. It gives you a starter site that gives you a glamour gem. We don't natively have any glamour magic. I don't know what you would do with that particularly, but glamour stuff is pretty good. You could go with fear or awe and like use it that way, maybe. Yeah, I don't know about that guy. We have the Golden Pillar. I actually kind of like this one. If you're just going to go for something super straightforward, so he's only 120 points, right? We're going to go for some earth points here. We're going to do, let's say, reinvigoration times 4. So this is going to be our Olms, essentially, and a bit of a caster bless. So we do this. I mean, that's not bad. This is awake on that, and we don't need to be awake here. We don't have to be awake to do reinvigoration, so we could go dormant, or we could even go imprisoned. I mean, you have 600 points left over. I don't think you can even spend 600 points. We can't even spend 600 points. So if that was the case, then I would be looking at adding maybe Unbreakable. Yeah, we'd add Unbreakable maybe, and I don't know. That's going to be a little bit difficult. We'd have to maybe drop some. I don't know. But point being here, very, very cheap. I'd probably go dormant. I probably wouldn't go all the way to imprisoned. Or maybe even just awake and get his research, which isn't going to be the best. But you could get the research rolling. Go dormant. Let's see. We do like the resources and order. Probably drop this. We definitely don't need that much. Yeah, that's fine. I'd play that. This is super duper cheap. Our Olms are going to be mind blasting for days and days and days. We have lots of resources here, so we're going to have a strong economy to be able to buy lots and lots of researchers, lots and lots of cap mages, lots and lots of sacreds out of our forts. Now, do note, our sacreds aren't particularly good with this bless, so that is a major downside here. If we were going to do something else, I went with the monolith, kind of sort of for the memes. You could probably do that blessing. Well, can you do it much cheaper? Maybe not. Because he's too... Yeah, she's way more. You could go with him. No, it's going to be cheaper here because he costs 80 for a new path. 100. Maybe you could do it cheaper here. So we're looking for... Let's check it. We're looking for weightless, and we are looking for regeneration. We need one more point. I can do it here. Yeah, this guy would be cheaper, actually. And this is awake, which we do want, because we're going to want to be able to use those guys. We're going to want some heat. We're going to need some dominion. We can afford 1 scale. I think I'd probably go a little misfortune. I'd go like 1 and 1. This is fine. You can play this. This is cheaper than the monolith, and he's mobile. Yeah, this is probably the better build for it, frankly. You don't want to just go for flavor. Yeah, I quite like this bless. Again, is it the most meta thing ever? No, but it's really fun. And that's what matters sometimes. Just have fun. It doesn't have to be the most powerful thing ever. Scales-wise, as I mentioned here, I think you want order and production probably in lockstep. So if you go 1-1 or 2-2, you definitely want heat too, because we are cold-blooded and we don't have to worry about temperature scales underground, which is where we're going to be good at being. So that's going to be fine. We have lots of fortune tellers, so you can take misfortune 1 or maybe even 2. We have efficient researchers, so extra magic scales would be great. And we don't need growth, but growth is just an economy scale. You could probably even get away with death 1 if you had to. So quite flexible, I would say, on the scales. Okay, in conclusion, I love Agartha. That is my conclusion of this video. Hopefully you found it relatively interesting here. I'm curious to see what other god builds and blessing discussions people have. Like I say, the comment from Kevin Thomas launched the pregame series. So thank you again, Kevin, for the insightful comment. And thank you to anyone else who has continued that conversation with me throughout these videos. I quite enjoy that. Let me know what your thoughts are on Agartha. At some point, we will probably do another stream of Agartha. Like I said, they are one of my favorite nations, and I don't think I think I did Agartha as my second Dominion stream, so I am much better at both the game and streaming, I like to believe. So I think I could give them a better showing than what we had back then. I think we ended up conquering Shaboba, so we had that going for us at least. Okay, builders, hopefully you enjoyed this one. Share your thoughts down below and be on the lookout for the next video. Take care and go build something cool.